Hey, and welcome back to the ADHD Biography. I'm your host, John Clarkson, and this is the podcast where we explore lived experiences behind the label. And for episode 3, I'm thrilled to be talking to Charlotte Mellors of the Mindful Mug Café in Lincoln. It's a brand new cafe that's already creating a buzz for its inclusive, neurodiverse friendly space. Just 1 month in, and Charlotte shares her experiences of opening the cafe, her ADHD journey, and how mindfulness and creativity became the heart of her vision. If you like this episode, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to hear more experiences about people thriving with ADHD. Thanks for coming on the show, Charlotte. I appreciate it today. Really interested just to hear first of all about where did your ADHD journey start?
It started a few years ago, and I was working at a bank, and I liked the job and the hustle and bustle, so go, constantly busy. But I was having therapy at the time for some stuff that happened when I was younger, and I'd had loads of therapy over the years. And as I was talking to the woman, I think I'd reached a point where I was slowly falling out of love with my job, and I had this counsellor, and I thought, you've not experienced what I've experienced, and I can feel this from you. I could perhaps use my experiences to help others that have gone through a similar thing. So essentially I thought I could do a better job than you. So I embarked upon CPCAB Counselling Skills Level 2 and 3 with the goal of becoming a counsellor, but then as I realised counselling wasn't for me. And it was when I was doing the counselling course I realised there's something not quite right, because I couldn't sit. It physically hurt me to sit still, and I was just constantly fidgeting, and I was looking around the room at everyone, and no one else was like that. They were all like, still. And someone walked by the windows, they had big glass windows so you could see everyone, and I was constantly like that. And it just wasn't focused enough. And then when I was doing the counselling, you have to practice one-to-one skills. I spent so much time trying to remember what they'd said, because as part of counselling you have to paraphrase and remember what they've said, but of course in the therapy room the client is the one who's doing all the talking, so you pick up on something and you're like, oh okay, I can use that, but then they carry on talking and you're like, right, I need to remember this, and then it takes away from the client because you're not remembering what else they've said because you're so busy trying to remember what they've said. I thought, this isn't for me. But then, as I was progressing through the course, I realised that I'm not PTSD, which is what I was diagnosed with as a teenager. There's something else, because I'm not in that fight or flight mode. I'm not waking up with horrendous nightmares and sweats, but there's something not quite right. So as I started talking to people about it, someone said ADHD, and I was like, nah, that's naughty boys did not disease, but disorder. That's not me. And then I started reading about it and looking into it, and I was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense because I can't sit still. I'm always doing like a million different things. My brain's really forgetful and scatty, and I'm either really motivated or really lazy. There's like no in between. I either get it all done or not at all. So I started doing some research towards the end of my counselling course, and I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I've probably got ADHD. So then I started the journey. And to the diagnosis and whatnot.
So when was your diagnosis and how did that impact you? Did that give you more clarity?
Yeah, so I obviously went through the process, which as people know is very long and very painful and a lot of waiting. So before I had the diagnosis, I was like, what if I'm picking it? What if I've read all this stuff? It's imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
What if I've read all this stuff and I'm just acting to it? And then I was like, no, it is you. And then I was like, yeah, but... So I finally had a diagnosis and I went through everything with her, and then she said at the end of the call, and I didn't know they could do this, I thought they had to go away and and she went, Charlotte, I can tell you are ADHD. And I just sat there and I cried, and it was like all the jigsaw pieces that I'd been trying to put together with my life and fit, I'd finally found the missing pieces. And it was like, I'm not weird, I'm not mental, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm not like totally abnormal or weird, I'm just wired a little bit differently. Because I'd always been really hard on myself, why am I not like everyone else, why? And like even as a young kid I struggled with friendship groups, I struggled with like being told what to do. So I always felt like an outcast and I could never understand why. And a lot of it, the blame was put on stuff that happened to me in my childhood. And so that just sort of made sense, that was sort of my excuse. So to hear someone actually say, no, you have this, you're just wired differently, it just, everything felt right and fit into place. And then from then, I could be a lot kinder to myself. Because I know some people grieve on what they've missed out on, but I think because I was in my 20s, I hadn't lost too much of my life yet. I'd lost obviously some of it, but it just sort of was like life-changing for all the good reasons, because I'm not insane. And I think that's because that's what I've been told a lot by people. I'm just mentally a weirdo, It's like, no, I'm just wired a little bit differently. So I was learned to be a lot kinder to myself and learn myself and understand myself a little bit better. And then my confidence is just slowly, it's still work in progress, but I guess everyone is throughout the whole life. Slowly.
Yeah, no, certainly understand that as well, and can relate to that kind of light bulb moment of that clarity and realising. I don't know about yourself, but for me, when I realised it made a lot of sense to why certain things had maybe happened in the past, maybe why I reacted to certain situations and stuff, and so it sounds like it's very much the same for you.
Definitely. When you had your light bulb moment, did you take a step back and realise, well, actually, it's not anything that's wrong with me?
Yeah, actually, yeah, because I always felt like there was something, kind of like what you were saying, being sat in that room and realising all the people I'm fidgeting. I kind of felt that a few different times in my life, where I felt like maybe my brain was wired a bit differently, because with ADHD typically like running at like 100 miles an hour and like thinking of all these different things and stuff at once, and people aren't running at the same speed as you, and yeah, I certainly felt like a little bit different. So when I kind of realised, it was really eye-opening, and certainly, like you said, giving me a better understanding to myself and how I can kind of work with it moving forward. Was that the same for you, kind of following your diagnosis? Have you found it better to manage the kind of difficult traits of it?
Yes, definitely, because you don't beat yourself up like, oh, I need to get this and I've not got that done, and it's like before I beat myself up, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not clever enough, why am I like this, blah blah blah. Now it's like, well, no, I do it and I will do it, it's just I do it a little bit differently to everybody else. Like the other day I put a post on LinkedIn asking for help, which is something I never would have done before, because I would have just beat myself up and up saying, well, you're just rubbish, just quit, you shouldn't be here, again, imposter syndrome. And it's like, no, you just need a little bit of extra help sometimes to understand things or whatever. And I think before the diagnosis, you haven't got that label per se, because I know people are like, oh, you shouldn't label yourself. But I think sometimes the label gives you the understanding to say, no, it's okay, I am allowed to ask for help, and I do need the extra help sometimes, and because of that doesn't make me any less of a person or no good at what I'm doing. It actually makes me probably a little bit better and a little bit stronger for that reason.
That's really cool. Going back to the kind of label point that you said, obviously there's a lot of negative connotations that I think still sit with ADHD, like ADHD diagnosis, or someone that says they're ADHD. What do you think that maybe we could do better as society to reduce that stigma?
Look back through history and go back to as far back as the Gazmo days and have a look at how they worked and how they functioned. And do you know how they say opposites attract? And you've got one person's like, and then the other best friend who's like really calm, and that they're totally opposites. And if you look back throughout history, I believe that the ADHD and also the autistic mind as well are the oldest brains and the evolved brains, because back in the day you've got the hunters who were probably very ADHD, very dopamine driven. Let's go on an adventure, let's find a new place to go, let's find the animals. Because when you hunt, not that I've ever done it before, I couldn't ever do it, but it's dopamine, you get that fast fix, and so they used to go out and do that and did it. And then you've got the autistic people who are more logically, let's build stuff, let's do this and that, and they stayed and they built the thing. So society was probably built by neurodivergent people because of the way the brains are wired. And I think if people understand that a little bit more and they look throughout evolution, that's sort of how we've changed and evolved. And I think, I don't know if this is suitable for a podcast, but I do feel that because ADHD people question things and they hate the injustices, and it's like, well, that's wrong, why are you doing that, why is this going on? I feel like society has just kind of wanted to shut people up a little bit and just say, like, well, no, you can't ask questions, you've got to fit into this box, and if you don't fit into this box, then you're weird, you're wrong, you don't fit in, you get pushed aside. And it's the same in schools as well, in clubs, and I've seen it with my own child. And I think if society could just understand that the ADHD brain just thinks outside the box a little bit differently and just see the world in a totally different way too. I hate this word, neurotypical person, because no one's neurotypical, no one. There's no such thing as normal. And I think that would create a lot more understanding of things and how people work and how our brains are all different. And then it creates just kindness, not kindness, but understanding of things and the way people work. But I just think we talk too much and we say too much and we question too much, and people don't like to be questioned on things, especially if they don't have the answers themselves.
So yeah, and I think definitely, like you say, about asking the questions, asking why we do certain things. I think typically with ADHD as well, we like to kind of think outside the box, or as if there's not a box, like you say, and just that curious mind. And that kind of leads into my next question, just about, so in terms of entrepreneurs, generally there's a quite a high proportion that will have ADHD. Obviously we're sat here today at your new cafe, the Mindful Mug. So being an entrepreneur yourself with ADHD, how have you found it in terms of your career path so far? Obviously you said you've done jobs like working in a bank and things like that. Do you feel like your ADHD has maybe kind of pushed you to start something yourself?
Yes, because obviously when I was doing college I was still working at the bank and juggling it, and then when I did my pre-access and access course, especially my access course, I had to take a step back and I had to stop working for the first time in my life. So I was working from the age of 16 up until, I don't know how old I was, because again dates and numbers and times are all just a big blur for me. And I had to take a step back from work, and then of course I did uni, and again I didn't work whilst I was at uni because I had Louis and was a single parent at the time. Not now, I have a partner and a new baby. But I had to focus because again working and doing this, and it just was too much for my brain. So then when I had Luca, because I had Luca at the start of my third year of uni, which is absolutely bonkers, but I was determined to see it through. And everyone, the more you say you're not going to do it, the more I'm like, watching it, I'm going to do it. And I did it. But in terms of being an entrepreneur, as I was finishing uni and I was looking at going back to work, number one, I didn't want to go back to work full time, because I went back to work full time when Louis was 7 months and it nearly killed me. Because I was out the house at 7:30 every day, and I wasn't getting back till 6 o'clock Monday to Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday it was cleaning and preparing for the week and da-da-da. And then if I had time off with Louis, it was like you had to do it every time to work. Why was you off? Why was your child sick? Why wasn't there anyone else to have him? Blah, blah. And I thought, I'm his parent, right? I'm all he's got. And as I finished uni and I was applying for jobs with Luca and Louis in tow, I thought, I don't want to work full time. And there was a big thing in my head about the return to work at the bank, and I thought, I'm now in a position where I would tell them to I wouldn't sit there and think, oh, I need this job, I need this money. I would turn around and say, no, I don't want that. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to get angry at somebody for doing their job, but then at the same time, it's just, why do I want to be told what to do? And I think that's the big thing with ADHD, is being told what to do. So why? I didn't want to have to explain everything to somebody else to get my wages and just be a worker, because I'd kick off, and I wouldn't kick off, but I probably wouldn't stand for it as much as what I did do back then when I was 19, 20.
So do you find, obviously you said about your kind of curiosity, is that what's led you to opening the cafe, Mindful Mug?
Yeah, it's a happy accident. Because as I finished uni, I didn't want to work full time because of experiences with Louis and with Luke as well. I thought that's not going to do it, and no one wanted me for part time degree, like with my degree for psychology. And with psychology, you'd have to go and do your masters, but it would be like you'd have to do it in like not neurodivergence. They don't do one in neurodivergence, which is mad. But it'd be like neuroscience or clinical or developmental or whatever, and you have to then sort of focus and be stuck in that box without then going back to completely retraining something else. And I didn't want that. I started this journey because I wanted to help people who've been abused. I wanted to help people who've been bullied. I wanted to help people again because I found that divergence, and it just didn't fit into a box. And I was like, well, what do I do? So I applied for some crappy jobs and I got them, and then I was like, I don't want to do that because they were all full time. So I came here with my friend one day. I was having a really, really bad day, and she was like, oh, come over and see you. And I was like, no, don't do that, like, I'm fine, really. And then I thought, and that's normally what I would say to people, like, no, leave me alone, don't want to be, I just want to be on my own. And then my brain went, no, accept it. So I accepted it, and we met up. She came from Leicester, and we were walking up the hill trying to find a cafe. And there was no cafes that I could fit the pushchair in because they were all busy and really loud. And I saw CBD coffee now, and I was like, ooh, CBD, I've read about that. Well, that's because I was doing naughties at the time. I would not naughties, like I was just making cannabis to quiet my head down a little bit. But with my medication, and your body's like a chemistry set, so I wasn't getting the full benefits of the medication. Although I was functioning, it wasn't functioning at 100%. I tell you I was, but like any sort of, I guess it is addict. I was lying to myself. I was probably on like 70% because I could get everything done, but I did just enough. So I saw CBD sign. I was like, oh, let's go there for coffee. And I've never ever spent so long in a coffee shop as what I did on that day with Nicole and Luca. And the lady who was working here at the time was struggling with something. And I was like, oh, I can help you with that. I can come in on Friday. Because Luca was still in nursery, because I love my children so much. But I'm not cut out to be a full-time mother. I can't, no. It just sucks the life out of you bit by bit, and the days are so repetitive and mundane, and it just made me so ill. So he was in nursery 2 days a week, so I had 2 days a week free. What was I doing on them 2 days? Existing, which again is no good for my head because I need something to do and focus on. So I said to the lady, well, I can help you with that. So I came back on the Friday, helped with it, and I don't know, I've never done this before. And I went, oh, I have a job. If you want me to, I'll come and work here. And I was like, oh, we can't afford to pay you because the business is not doing very well. Horrible story, I won't go into that. And I was like, no worries, I've just done a business course because I was going to become an ADHD coach, but the market for that is so saturated, and there's no like, you've got to be accredited as a coach. You don't have to be for ADHD, but in my head, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly. I'm not just going to say, oh, I've read a few books, I'm an ADHD expert, I'm a coach now, let me help you because I've done my degree. And I couldn't find a degree that did focused on coaching. So I was like, don't really want to do that. And again, sounds really bad, although I have a cafe now. It was a lot of work with social media and all that sort of stuff, and I was like, that's not for me. But I'd already done a business course, so when I came in here, I was full of ideas on how to make the business grow. And I said, no worries, I'll volunteer, and when we're making a profit, then I'll start taking some money. And what was meant to be a few days a week ended up being full time. But I could bring Luca with me, and when he was at nursery, I was here, and I loved it. I really loved it because every day was different. I was on my own and I had full creative control to do what I wanted, but then it got a little bit, it just went to shit. So I was like, I've got to walk away. So I walked away and I was so sad. Like, I was really sad because I really enjoyed it. But then I knew the business here was in a bit of, it wasn't doing too well. So I said to the bloke was like, well, I want you to run it for me because him and his girlfriend had split up or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that, thank you. But I'll take the lease off you because I had some money come into me. But I saw this and I was like, well, I'll take it from you if you want. And he was like, no, I'm going to keep it. And I said, fair enough, let me know if you change your mind. And then I was evicted from my house as well because the landlord wanted his house back, which was another stress because it's like, if I don't find a house, I've got to go into temporary accommodation and all that sort of stuff. My ADHD brain, I knew for a fact, would not do well. Living in a little hotel room with all my belongings and 2 kids, I would have had a... And so then he rang me and he was like, actually, do you want the lease? We'll talk to the landlord, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And there's a flat upstairs, so it was all just sort of do you know how the planets all aligned for the other months? It was like they'd all aligned for me, and I thought, I'm going to do it. So I spoke to ChatGPT and brainstormed a few ideas and whatnot, and what can I call it? And she gave me, I call her a she. I know she's not a she, she's a human, but it just, like, I say please and thank you to her and everything. Everyone's like, well, why do you do that? I say, oh, and I was like, because money's cost nothing. But she gave me the Mindful Mug, and I was like, oh, I really like that. And I thought, yeah, let's do it. So I started the process of setting up the cafe and signing the lease, and it was such a journey. It was just up and down. It's not going to happen, it's going to happen, it's not, I've got to do this has gone wrong, that's gone wrong. So much happened, and I thought, that's not going to happen. But I kept with it, and I did the Thrive Tribe as well, which was like a 12-week boot camp, and it just helps you through your business, and through that I met so many inspiring people, learned how to network and make self. The cafe opened on the 1st of April, and it was like, oh my god, this is like the best happy accident ever. And I'm not being told what to do, I don't have to explain myself to anybody. But I do, I have to explain myself to loads of people, like mentors and taxman and all that sort of stuff, but it's mine. And then as I was setting it all up, I thought, holy shit, this is like meant for me, because I can use everything I've learned throughout life. I can use my ADHD, I can use all of my knowledge to help other people by doing the support groups and planning workshops and whatnot for people. And then it's accidentally become like an ADHD friendly divergent space, and a lot of the customers come in, and I'm very open about my ADHD, I've got no shame in it.
Obviously there's a lot of struggles with some of the ADHD traits, and you've kind of touched on a few about that. Unable to be focused, or sat in one place or doing one thing that becomes monotonous. Is there anything that sticks out to you from your ADHD, your experiences, that is a strength for you, especially obviously kind of running a business as well?
My determination is a strength, because I know everything I've been through, I've done it, so I can do it. But focus, like if it's like the stock take, or if I'm doing a job and then a customer comes in and then I've got to go and serve that customer, and then I've got to go back to the other job, but I don't go back to that other job. I walk around and I'm like, oh yeah, I just need to go and do this, and I've got to go and do that. And I had a bit of, not a meltdown, but overwhelmed the other day. My partner was like, well, what do you need to do? And I was like, I've got like 10 jobs to do. Well, how much have you done? And I said, well, I've done about 10% of all of them.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, well, focus on one then. And I'm like,
easier said than done.
Yeah, but how? Because then I get taken away with the kids, I get taken away and as well, it's like if I've got to do, I don't really know what's a boring job, most of them, apart from like actually doing the job. I don't know. It's
just the kind of more difficult parts. I know
the bits I don't know how to do, like the social media side of it, and the budgeting and numbers.
So it's that, I think, when it becomes difficult. I know from kind of my own experiences being some of the people on the show, the kind of start of things generally when it's like the learning part and those first initial ideas about something you're really enthusiastic about, and also like the end product. But when it gets difficult in between, when it becomes a bit of a barrier, or like you say, it becomes like monotonous, it can be a bit of a struggle. Have you found that then with the tasks in the cafe as well?
Yeah, because what you said about having all the ideas, I said, I have so many ideas, great ideas, but it's getting them all out of my head, and first of all, getting them out of my head and onto paper, because how do you focus that down and then get it done? Or I have the idea, but then I've got to go and talk to someone about the idea, and I've got, as you know, messaging is not my strongest point, and that's how people communicate. People aren't telepathic, so they don't know that I read their message and gone
and reply to it in your head.
In my head, yeah. And then again got distracted, put my phone down, because that notification's gone from my phone. I don't see it until either you've messaged me again, or I go to, because I get an idea and I'm like, oh, I need to message that person, and then I realise I haven't messaged them back for 2 weeks, and I'm like, well, I can't send that message because then they're going to think I'm rude that I've not messaged them back. And it's not, it's just
how your brain operating kind of keeps up with it.
Yeah, and that's a real struggle.
Yeah. Is there anything that you found that like helps to kind of manage the downsides at all, like with maybe things like that, or obviously the load of tasks that you start and don't quite finish?
Manage it. It's a work in progress. I realise asking for help and talking to people, because you learn a lot by talking to people. which is great, and there's no shame in it. I'm trying to use one notepad rather than, I think I have 4 at the minute dotted around the place, and then I can't find them, so then I start a new one. Lists. People say lists, but again, I have recently learned how to not overcomplicate them. So say, for example, if I needed to mop, I'd be like, right, I need to mop the bathroom, the kitchen, and my old house was all wooden floors as well, but I would do it and then so by the end of it, my list would just be huge, and then that would overwhelm me.
Yeah.
So then I wouldn't do it, I'd just put it away. One thing that used to help that I haven't actually done since I moved in, thank you for reminding me, is I would have a piece of paper on the side. I'd have like a big A4 notebook, and I would just write down little jobs that I needed to do and not overwhelm it so much. And as long as it stayed in that one place, and as long as things didn't get piled up on top of it, because I don't know about you, but I'm like, ooh, flat surface, let's shove a load of stuff on top of it. Not really driving my partner mad. That really helps. And then if you do what I call side quests, because you get dopamine by ticking it off, don't you?
Yeah.
So I have my little side quests and just tick them straight off. So that really helps. And I don't, there's just lots of little different things that I try and do. Don't put it down, put it away. That helps me. So if I've got something in my hand and something else needs to be done, I have to sometimes say to myself, no, put it down, put it away. And even if it's just putting something in the cupboard, and it's so simple, up and down. Whereas normally it's put it down, go to the next job.
What might seem simple to some other people isn't necessarily simple to someone with an ADHD brain, is it? And going back to your point about the list as well, I know, like, I do this, I have to do this, otherwise like nothing gets done. So, and I found before I did that, a bit like you with your kind of 10 tasks and 10% of every task, that is very much what I do. And before I do any work now, I have to write a list and prioritise what's on that list as well, and you tick it off, because you need that visual. I think without that visual and that, like you say, that you get a bit of dopamine from ticking everything off and knowing you're actually making progress, keeping track of it. So that's really interesting. And certainly I know, speaking to someone else on the show, that getting your ideas and like out into writing is a massive thing as well, because a bit like you, like, I have a million ideas about like one thing at once, and it's a struggle to keep up with those sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you find that with obviously with the cafe as well, with things you want to do, trying to bring them to life without forgetting about it in sort of the array of ideas that you have for it?
Massively. I mean, it's only been 3 weeks, so I'm trying not to be too hard on myself, because like, I really need to get focused and get things done. But it's like I say to my son, I'm so sorry, Lou, I'm like 10 steps ahead already of what I actually need to do. So I've got the task in hand that I need to do, but then my brain's like, yeah, but then you can do this, this, and this. And before you know it, you've jumped. And then you're like, where was I? How am I going to do this? What am I going to do? So with the cafe, it's only been 3 weeks, and I've never done anything like this before. I've never really worked in a proper cafe. I mean, I worked at McDonald's for a bit, and then volunteered here, but it was so quiet and dead anyway. That's probably why I thought it would be dead easy to do. Not easy, I knew it would be the challenges. But yeah, it's just, how do I do it? How do I make all these things happen? But I think it's just being kind and understanding to yourself, and know that if I just say, well, I failed because I've not done it, it's like, no, Charlotte, just try, just get it done, just see what happens, and then stop apologising so much to everyone. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't see this, I'm sorry for the delay, But people actually kind of do understand that. I've got 2 children, I've got a business that is really full on, and people get it. So I think by giving myself a reminder, I still have to remind myself of that, and reminding myself that it's okay not to be perfect. And I think that's a big thing for me with this cafe. I'm finding the time, organising the time. I do need some help with time management. Like, I haven't got any concept of time, seconds. If you say you've got, I can't remember how many seconds are in 5 minutes, but if you say you've got like 360 seconds, I'm like, that's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
5 minutes though, that's a while. And it's just knowing that, well, I've got to go out, so I can't just quickly wash the pots, I can't just quickly put the washing away, I can't just quickly do this because then you're going to be late. So it's the whole thing, don't put it down, put it away, don't start a job, get out of the house now, kind of thing. That helps a lot.
Yeah.
But then you feel bad because you're not washed up. But then again, it's like I'll say to my friends, practice what I preach. The cleaning and the washing and everything will always be there, as long as it's not filthy, as long as it's not really dirty and you can live and function, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I think with the ADHD brain, you want everything yesterday. And it's got to be perfect first time, and if it's not, then
it just makes you want to give up. I know, certainly from my kind of experiences, like I say, if it's not perfect, if it's not right, you just want to put it down and not do it again. So
and crawl away into a hole. And that's been a real eye-opener with the cafe, because it's like I've got all these ideas and and it's like, no, Rome wasn't built in a day, neither was the Mindful Mug. And I have to really tell myself that it's okay, and it's a learning process, and I'm learning, and the customers won't understand that for now. There's probably a brief period where they'll be understanding with that, whereas then in a few weeks they probably won't be. But again, the community is part of the cafe. They like to come in and see what's changed, what's different. I've moved you came in on your first week, didn't you?
Yeah.
So you saw how it was, and now it's all moved around again. So people are like, oh, it's different in here. And you're like, yeah, I've just rearranged it a little bit, and then again I'll do something else, and then it's a talking point as well. So I just think, not being so hard in knowing that it's not all going to be done yesterday, it's all just takes time, and that's okay. Nothing is done like that unless you're really rich and got a really amazing big team behind you.
It's fantastic what you're doing here with the cafe and with the Mindful Mug, and certainly creating a space for people with neurodivergence to come and feel accepted and kind of share their experiences as well with you, I guess.
Yeah, and just have a place that they know that they can come where, they're not going to be judged for talking too much, or they just want a calm, quiet space that's not full of people talking and it's a cafe, so there are people talking and whatnot, but it's not
to the point where it's overwhelming.
Yeah, and it's like when you go to Starbucks, and it's like you're in, you're out, go, and the world is so fast, and I know the ADHD brain is really fast and just wants to keep on going, but I do think sometimes we appreciate having that moment of calm and clarity just before you can go back out into the world. One thing I want to do is networking practice for people, so people with ADHD, because I really struggled with networking. I really struggle in social situations anyway, but networking for me is amazing because everybody's there for a purpose, and you know that everyone's there just to talk to people. So it's really, really good, but initially, how do you go into that room, how do you do it and not feel like a bit of an idiot, really? And that's how I feel a lot at the networking meetings, because it's like, well, I'm doing it. But then I've learned not how to do it, because I've learned how to do it and the reasons behind it. So it'd be really good for people to have a space where ADHD people and autistic people and the neurotypical people can learn how to communicate with each other and understand each other a little bit more. And the older generation can come in and speak to the younger generation and learn how to communicate with them, because I'm 30 in 10 days, I think, second May, my gosh. And from me being at uni, I've learned that the younger generation is so different. Look, it's getting older now. And the way that they talk, the way that they communicate, and sometimes that can be a really big barrier for the older people, and especially the divergent people, because then it's like, well, is it me? Am I just stupid for not understanding them? And it's like, no, there's just different languages, different communications that we all sort of do now in this beautiful world where we're all different. Just a space that's safe and accepting, because I've really struggled to feel accepted, and it wasn't until I did the Thrive Tribe that I realised I can be accepted and I can be myself and I can be true to myself, and that's what I want for the Mindful Mug. I just want people to come in and be who they are, no mask, no airs and graces, just be yourself.
It's great that you've got a space to celebrate people's differences and make them a place where they can feel like they can be themselves for, like you say, younger and older generations, neurotypical and neurodiverse as well. Where can our audience and listeners follow your journey and also that at the Mindful Mug?
At the Mindful Mug Café on Facebook and Instagram. So that's where I am. And if you want a coffee, it's Garmston Street, St Martin's Square.
Brilliant, that's great. Well, I'm sure hopefully a lot of our listeners will pop in. Great to see it, and it's been a pleasure talking to you today, and thanks for sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you for bearing with me. It's been nice. Thank you for having me.